near them, and like stuff like that. And then so the cats.
Mic check one. Mic check one. Okay. Is that coming through?
How you doing, John?
Good. How about you?
Good, thank you.
Good morning. Commissioner Kolkmeyer, can you hear us?
I can. I couldn't for a little bit, and I got it figured out. So, yes.
Good
I'm all
deal.
good.
Commissioner Holzman?
Good morning.
Good morning. All right. And Commissioner Coleman and Mitchell are here in person. So it is after 10:15 a.m. and all the commissioners are present. So we'll begin the agenda meeting for today, Wednesday, December 11th. I would ask those who are participating on the call to please mute your phone unless you need to speak. Today there are 9 tariffs and new orders. But before we get to those, we have minutes that we need to approve from the December 4th, 2024 agenda meeting. Commissioners, are there any changes or modifications to those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving those minutes, please say aye.
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 I
Those opposed? By a vote of 5-0, those minutes are approved. Tariffs and new orders. The first tariff and order today deals with 2 cases. File number WR-2024-0343 and file number SR-2024-0344. And the matter of the request of Holt Grove Farms Water Company and Holt Grove Farms Sewer Company for an increase in annual water and sewer system operating revenues. On May 24th, Holt Grove filed a letter requesting an increase of $10,000 in its annual water and sewer system operating revenues under the small utility rate case process. Holt Grove provides water and sewer service to approximately 45 customers in Union, Missouri. Staff conducted an audit of Holt Grove's books and records, a review of its customer service and general business practices, a review of their existing tariffs, an inspection of its facilities, and a review of the operation of the facilities. The commission held a local public hearing and heard from 3 witnesses. 3 written public comments were also submitted. Ultimately, staff and Holt Grove came to agreements in both water and sewer requests. For water, the agreement increases water revenues by $19,577. And for sewer, the agreement increases revenues by $12,424. The current rates for both of these systems were set in 2010 and became effective in early 2011. This means there's been a significant amount of time between when the customers have had a rate change, which in part may explain why the agreement results in the average monthly water bill from customers increasing from approximately $38 to just under $75. And the sewer bill increasing from $39 to $62. These proposed increases are supported by staff's audit. I think it might be important to have staff come to the table. I think we may have some questions about some of the charges that make up the revenue requirement. So with that, thank you, Kurt. Attorney Travis, thank you for joining us today. When we look at this particular request, the request was for $10,000. So if you wouldn't mind walking us through the income statement and their rate making statement, just where do you see the biggest changes and what can explain some of those changes other than just time?
From my perspective, the biggest explanation is we didn't include enough time for the amount of time folks were working on there. We only had $1,800 built in for salaries. Now, at the time they came in for their certificate, they also didn't have customers. So your expenses associated with running the system are going to increase as your customers appear. But they had 0 customers and now they have 47. So that was a big change. And then of course they've also made investments over that time as they continued to add customers and build out the system. Maybe you're probably adding your meters, your service connection, those sorts of things. And then of course expenses for everything have gone up dramatically, but it's not uncommon from my perspective when we are setting up initial rates for a company and as part of their certificate, we're not going to get it right. We don't have data. They don't have data. They haven't been running the system and they aren't necessarily familiar with every expense that they're going to have at that point. So all those things together come to this one needing a significant increase from my perspective.
Okay, that's really helpful. Talk to us particularly about the depreciation expense increase. What's driving that particular expense?
Well, plant investments, but I don't have the specifics of that in front of me. Did you have something?
Yeah. Malachi, please join us.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, there's a significant increase in the depreciation expense of both the water and sewer request. Can you just help explain what's driving the depreciation expense so high? So when we're thinking about an increase in the sewer company of $12,000, there's an additional amount of $10,000 for depreciation expense. Can you just talk us through that? Similarly, in water, it's for $9,300. So just kind of explain what's driving that.
So I was mostly in charge in this case, selecting the depreciation rates. We used mostly the same rates as the initial rates when they first came in for their initial rate case.
Thank you.
So as far as the amount of money that's associated with that.
So I'm guessing it's just additional plant investment that wasn't taken into account that now needs to be depreciated 14 years later.
Yes, yeah.
Well, they're going to have been making plant investments. I was wondering or hoping that we might have a listing of the actual. It's not typical for us to include that level of support in the memos, but it would have appeared on work papers and spreadsheets that we don't attach to. But we can get that information.
That'd be helpful.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may, sometimes commissioners like,
So they can see.
sometimes when there's a new system like Whole Gravy was 10 years ago, when the developers are building the system, they include a lot of that infrastructure into the sale of the lots and the houses. So when we're initiating those initial rates, it's a lot of SEAC, and so there's no depreciation that would be included in that initial investment because it's already, it's our view that those dollars have already been paid when they sell the lots and the homes. So as over the 12 years with more people, more investment, all of a sudden that is not paid for by the consumers as lot owners. That's the utility company itself. So that will help then generate more depreciation, which is then going to generate depreciation expenses, which is going to be added. So I think that's a common theme that happens when we have these new systems that have nothing, and SEAC is a big part of that. More investment is not going to be SEAC, and so you're going to see a rise in depreciation expense over time. So
Thank you for the explanation. Two other things I just want to point out, or really also ask about. This had an imputed capital structure. Can someone talk about that versus what using actual capital structure may have on rate impact? If we do even have actual capital structure in this case, is this Kim? Yeah. Hi, Kim.
Hi. I don't know that we had an actual capital structure on that, but I can double check. A lot of these small companies, it's either 100% equity, 100% debt. So we do a 50-50 capital structure. So 50% equity, 50% debt. The more equity you have, more than likely it's going to be a higher ROR because equity is more expensive than debt most of the time. So
With brand new companies, we're forced to use hypotheticals because they oftentimes have formed a company specifically to run the utility, and then they have no financial statements that were formed a month before they filed an application.
Yeah.
So we're forced to use that hypothetical, and then maybe later on we're able to dial it in.
And this may be our first time looking at their financials. We realize they're not what they should be. We can't really rely on them.
Only other thing that I wanted to highlight was the return on equity. In this case, the staff sat at 9.86%. And in the water cases that I think I've been involved in since I've been at the commission, there's been 2. And I think in both the ROE was around 9.9. So I think this is fairly consistent with that. So with that, that's all that I had, but I want to open it up for everyone to get their questions answered and make additional comments. So with that, Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you. Kim,
Yes.
you just said something at the end there, that this may be the first time you think that you all have seen the company's financials. And I just wonder, through the work that's been done on this and conversations that staff has there been any ideas floated around about what we can do better as a commission to not have a situation like this happen in the future where rates jump up so quickly after a company comes in that we haven't looked at a rate case for over a decade? Is there any kind of way, well, maybe you know this answer, are there any requirements in place that can be looked at to determine sooner where these companies are headed, instead of something like this coming up where there's going to be significant rate shock? And it's not good for anybody when we're dealing with that, and it just makes me wonder what we're doing to make this situation better.
We've had that recently over the last few years, and what we've been trying to do is say you have to come in for a rate case within, say, 2-3 years, so we can look at the data they have. So,
And that's for the new companies.
the new companies.
Yeah.
For what I've got going on right now is we still have a handful of companies that will not come in. We've tried a softer approach. Hey, it's in your interest to come in. Your expenses are very different than they were, say, 10 years ago. I think it's natural as part of this for companies to be worried that maybe they've recovered their investments to the point where that would drop rates. The trouble is, most of them haven't done their own thorough analysis of how much their expenses have increased.
Mm-hmm.
And expenses have increased so much, and in particular, labor for certified operators has gone much faster, up much faster than other inflationary issues. They need to get in here and they need to take a look. But if it's a very small company that was created as part of their other overall business interests, sometimes they're not terribly concerned about that company making a profit at all, breaking even at all. They're making their money in other ways. From my perspective, personally, this company has to be financially stable. Things happen. Maybe it's not that person who's running it tomorrow. Maybe they have some issue that comes up. We're making an effort now for the folks who have no interest in coming in, and the soft approach hasn't worked, where we're going to evaluate what we know of the rates from the math when those rates were created, and their recovery of their investments, and determining if we have to file a complaint to see if we can compel these folks to come in. It's not in anyone's best interest for a company to stay out 10, 13 years on these.
Sure.
Every 3 or 4 years is a much more reasonable effort, but there isn't a law in place that says they have to do that.
So,
If I may, just to kind of bounce off of Kurt about what the rule allows for commencement of a staff as a rate case. Like he noted, if the utility itself does not come in, its staff or another entity can file a complaint to try to compel them to come in, but that may not necessarily be the best approach if the utility is going to fight that.
May not be the best approach, but sometimes you need to carry a big stick to
Correct.
get attention. Whop a few people upside the head, and maybe somebody else will pay attention in the future. I think your point is well taken. When I look at the fact that the company requested a $10,000 increase in the one area, and we came up with something else through the agreement, that tells me in part that maybe these companies have no clue about what it costs to run a water company, a small water company especially. And that the fact that working with staff and staff having to come up with a more realistic rate, even though this was a lower rate than it could have been, which is good for the customer, that there's got to be a better way that we can make something different happen so that this type of increase doesn't happen with these small water companies in the future.
Our primary outreach effort is during our inspections. You know, we're talking to folks about how much time are you actually spending on this? Say they have 4 people working on it together. Say it's family helping out, something. Have you ever, okay, you're doing new things than you were 5 years ago, whatever. Have you ever actually put together a real timesheet to show how much time everybody's spending on this? And that a lot of times is eye-opening. And then our inspectors might get there and they talk about, okay, yeah, we had to put in a new pump. Oh, well, that's a big expense for such a small company. When are you planning on coming in? Oh, well, you know, that's a hard process. You have to reassure them and talk to them about this is in everyone's best interest to get a rate case filed.
And maybe part of it is that they are afraid about the process. And I can see the idea of being gentle to help encourage them to come in. And Travis just said there's no law that they have to come to us. But we've got, I think, as a commission, to come up with a way to fix this situation. Jim is dying.
I just want to just put a little bit of historical perspective on this as well, Commissioner, because we've had this issue since I took over water sewer back in 2008. And we actually sent out a letter to we had a lot more small systems at that point in time. Part of the problem becomes, as some people know, when you build a system, it could last for 30 years with very, very minimal need to invest in that system. And so what happens over that time is the depreciation goes down and the whole system could be depreciated out, and expenses, even though we've seen a little inflation over the last handful of years, doesn't quite go up as much. And so we were actually having decreases in rates because the depreciation goes down. So I think that is also fair. And we actually had some companies and we had some issues with other parties like, wow, we don't really want to decrease these rates because we know investments coming in the future. But then other parties like, well, we need to decrease these rates. They're too high. And then with decreased rates, and then you have to have just a small investment of $19,000 has a massive impact on these smaller systems. So, I hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree. Kurt's team does go out and does those inspections and looks for that. But it's a very fine line because if they haven't done a lot of investments and their expenses haven't gone up, that's a decrease in rates. And then 5 years later, when the rule changes, there has to be investment. Now we have to then triple the rates. So we got to be very careful on how we approach this because I don't want that. I don't want, here's a rate, we're going to drop it by 50%, then we're going to up it by 300%. That is a yo-yo that no, that's not good for the consumers or the company. So I just, we dealt with this, 15 years ago, and it was difficult to try to say, hey, let's just leave these okay where they're at. They're fine because we know what's going to come in the future with different regulations and stuff.
But with the fact that we know it's going to come in the future and we know that nothing's decreasing anymore as far as cost, I just think that there might be a way for us to brainstorm some ideas on how to make this less painful. I'll be supporting the order, but I just think we need to do some work there.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you.
I agree. I think this is something we can work toward had our report. Commissioner Holzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. These cases are always hard. I put myself in the shoes of the 45 folks who are going to receive these increases, and there's not a single one of them who's going to say, yeah, this is reasonable that it's jumped up, from 38 to 75. But the fact of the matter is, it's been 13 years since they've had an increase, and you have to be able to cover your costs on these systems to keep them viable. And in order to keep this system viable, this is the cost that it needs to be. I think this highlights that staff-assisted rate cases are beneficial when they're exercised. I tend to trust staff that they've done a good job at we've heard today that the evidence that we've discussed here has been thorough, and that the road leads to this is the cost that it needs to be to cover the expenses. And so while it's not fun to know that these 45 folks are not going to be happy with this increase, in order to keep the system viable, I don't see any other option. So with that, I'll be supporting the order.
Thank you, Commissioner Holzman. Commissioner Kolkmeyer.
Thank you, Chair Hahn. I have the same concerns that Commissioner Coleman does about compelling them to come in sooner. Because it's been that length of time, this increase is not good on the customers. I agree with everything that's been said. So the only other thing I would say is maybe we could see some more detail in the financials that may help with some greater detail. But with that said, I will be supporting this order.
Thank you, Commissioner Kolkmeyer. Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I first want to preface my comments by saying that I have no doubt that the work that staff has done is thorough and accurate, and I appreciate your work doing that. I want to make sure that I understand, just how this process works. And my understanding is that it is incumbent upon the company to approach the commission when they believe their rates need adjustment. And I think what we're facing here is really a direct result of having established a rate structure when the company was formed. And then we haven't heard from them or seen them for 14 years. And so we first got this 14-year period of time where costs have increased, but they haven't requested an increase in rates. And we've also got a compounding issue where when the rates were first established, there wasn't a large body of data that helped establish that. So in my mind, I think especially when the companies are first formed, that that there should be some urgency in the first few years once you have a body of data behind the operation, then to go back and look and see were the rates correct, even to start with, and then moving forward, are you really capturing the cost as the systems build out? And again, that cost shifts from sale of a lot to expansion of the infrastructure, and
You'll see that reflected in, assuming that cases settle, in settlement agreements with companies going forward. I mean, that's the modern way that we do it. There was a small company that they were operating without a certificate that was several years ago. Okay, they had to come in, get certificated. We had to make some guesses. They had no data for some of their uses of water was unmetered, and some uses were customers, some were within the company. And okay, we knew, we did our best. We knew that that was going to need refinement, and we had that in there that they would come back in. Well, then they were reluctant to come back in at all. We had to, threaten a complaint to get them to actually file what they sign on the dotted line that they would file. Most folks, going forward, it's been a pretty easy sell to talk them into, all right, we view this as critical, and here's why. But there will continue to be some systems that their owners, for whatever reason, really don't want to go through this process.
Just to add a little flavor for this company, I do believe for the longest time, they only had like 2 or 3 customers. It was right around the time of the financial crisis, and we had the downturn in construction. And so we were looking, so longest time there was no data to give because they weren't able to sell their homes. I think it's just recently, last handful of years is when that happened. So it is something that we are cognizant of, and we are looking at it for current cases. But that is one issue too, when, trying to set that rate, you can't set it too high that the developer can't sell the homes, because I'm not buying a new home where the rates are $100. So they want to keep it low enough to attract the consumers, but then we also have to keep it high enough to keep the company afloat, and then finding that sweet spot, and then we have to get customers to actually move in. So there's a lot of dynamics that are there when we're talking about establishing a company like this when there was nothing to begin with. So
yeah, I need to mention that David Spratt of my staff was instrumental in getting the folks to come in who have recently come through in the last couple of years, just reaching out and talking to them some more and trying to make them feel more comfortable about filing the application and what the staff assisted rate case process means.
But at the end of the day, under the current rules, we can't compel them to come in without filing a complaint.
Right, the complaint from staff or another entity that meets statutory requirements, that's the only other option besides the utility coming in itself.
So what I have my folks doing is again, based on the math that we have and information we have available from companies through annual reports, is evaluate with the information available, can we support a complaint if even after we go, I expect I'll have one-on-one meetings individual with folks before we'd ever do a complaint. But look, here's what our math says. And without any other supporting information, you have over-recovered your investment and customers are paying too much. Well, that's not true. I'm losing money. Okay, we have to work through that process.
In general, I'm sorry.
Please.
In general, how long historically has it taken for staff to file a complaint when these types of situations are going on?
I don't know that we've ever filed a complaint against a small and in a large. The problem with the complaint process, and Travis is an attorney and others will correct me if I get it wrong legally, there's no end date, right? If a company files through a normal general rate case process, there's an 11-month window. Staff assisted rate case has 150 days plus a little bit more for that, but a complaint doesn't have it. So even if we started one, if the company would have any pushback or anything or another, it's very difficult. So it's hard to say how long the process would be. We would do our audit and everything else in the normal time, try to get it done in, small company.
Yeah, we
90
did that
days.
in the 90s.
I don't remember.
Small system, and it took at least a year.
Yeah, it's
I
a
remember
process.
that one.
Because it's harder to work with the company and get the data if they're being forced to do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
But in the end, I see customers being affected, not only financially, but they could be affected relative to health.
Sure.
When we're investigating, inspecting, and there are issues. So I just like to, encourage staff to do some mulling over how we could make things better.
Is it also fair to say, I guess, that when a small system comes in for a staff assisted case, and in this instance, they ask for a $10,000 increase, fair to say that is really a placeholder so that you can really initiate the process. That really isn't the company coming in and saying, we think we need $10,000. It's a,
From
It-
our
it's a placeholder.
perspective, that would be an accurate description. Now, if you ask some of these folks, for their perspective, they may say, well, no, I think this is about right. Okay, what analysis have you done? Well, my bills have gone up. What analysis have you? There isn't any. They don't have a staff. They don't have people that can do that work for them. So sometimes it's really a shot in the dark. Otherwise, some other companies, there's one that will be probably filing in the next couple months. Very sharp. They're on it. They know about how much they need, and their guess is going to be much closer. So it varies, but the majority of them, they really don't know how much they need.
So Commissioner, if I could just add on to that. So historically, there was a line of thought that said the company could only get up to what they asked for. So if the company asked for $10,000, no matter what the audit would show, they could not get an increase above their ask. And so because of these small systems and they're not being generally as sophisticated to figure out what their needs are, when we developed the new rule a handful of years ago, we specifically put in there that whatever they ask for is fine, but staff's audit and what our determination is actually what they could actually get, because we don't want to punish a company simply because they're not familiar with how to do regulatory accounting and figure out what their rate should be. So we were specific in making sure that they weren't limited to their own inexperience dealing with this process by not getting the actual rates they deserve. So that was something that we definitely put in looking at that. So yes, Commissioner, in my view, it is a placeholder, because we've had companies file for $1 just to say, we want $1 increase, and then we do our audit, and whatever the results are, what the results are.
It just initiates the
Yeah,
process.
yep. Yes, sir.
And I think from my perspective, the staff assisted rate cases for these small systems is a wonderful thing. I think in this particular case, had we gone through a full-blown rate case in which the company would have needed to hire their own attorneys and accountants and consultants to sort through all of this, would easily have doubled this number. So I'm appreciative that we're doing the staff assisted rate cases, and I do hope moving forward we can find a way to maybe give stronger encouragement to the companies that haven't been here in decades to come in and go through this process, so that we don't have this sort of sticker shock in the future. And like Commissioner Coleman, I put myself in the customer's shoes, and while I feel sorry for their situation, I think this is a direct result of not being in for 14 years and having to play catch up.
There are not a lot of companies left that haven't come in. Yeah. Part of that also is we have a third of small companies when we started the agency through mergers and acquisitions. But there aren't a lot of these left. There will still be situations where a small company had to make a pretty dramatic investment that bumps rates up a lot. But these ones, when they just haven't been here in a long time, there's not a lot left.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Any other discussion from commissioners? Hearing none. With that, I recommend we approve the order version number 1. All those in favor of approving this order, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? By a vote of 5-0, that order is approved. The next tariff and new order, we're going to take 2 and 3 together. They are in file numbers GR-2023-0129 and GR-2023-0128 in the matter of Empire District Gas Company, DBA Liberty's Purchase Gas Adjustment Tariff Filing, and Liberty Utilities Mid-States Natural Gas Corp., DBA Liberty's Purchase Gas Adjustment Tariff filing. This involves the 2021 and 2022 PGA and ACA filings for Liberty and Liberty Mid-States. Staff filed recommendations in both and stated that staff had completed a review of billed revenues and actual gas costs for the period of September 1, 2021 through August 31, 2022, and had some recommended adjustments. Liberty responded in both cases to staff's recommendations and accepted staff's analysis and recommendations with the exception of staff proposed adjustment relating to carrying costs for Winter Storm Uri. On November 26th, in both cases, Liberty and Liberty Mid-States made filings stating that they had worked with staff to reach agreement on the carrying cost issue and agreed to the calculation of carrying costs for Storm Uri balance using the prime rate less 2%. And on December 5th, staff responded and said it agreed with Liberty's and Liberty Mid-States calculations and no other filings have been made. Now that the company and staff agree on the calculations, the order before us sets the ending ACA balances for Liberty and Liberty Mid-States 2021 to 2022 recovery period. With that, I recommend we approve both orders, both of which are version number 1s. Commissioner Coleman.
I support the orders.
Commissioner Holzman.
I support the orders.
Commissioner Kolkmeyer.
I support both orders.
Commissioner Mitchell.
I'm in support of the orders.
All those in favor of approving these orders, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? By a vote of 5-0, those orders are approved. Fourth tariff in order today is in file number EC-2025-0007. Kevin Kajewski versus Evergy Missouri West. On October 17th, the commission issued an order dismissing Mr. Kajewski's complaint as he had failed to appear for a pre-hearing conference and had failed to comply with the commission order to show good cause for his failure to appear. On November 13th, Mr. Kajewski made a filing, and as the commission's order dismissing the complaint was not yet effective, the dismissal order was rescinded. However, the commission issued an order on November 14th, ordering Mr. Kajewski to respond no later than November 29th, to which he has still not responded. By Mr. Kajewski's failure to comply with the commission's November 14th order directing him to file by November 29th availability for a pre-hearing conference, good cause exists to dismiss his case, and thus the order before us dismisses his complaint. With that, I recommend we approve the order version number 1. Commissioner Coleman.
I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman.
I support the order.
Commissioner Kolkmeyer.
I support the order.
Commissioner Mitchell.
I support the order.
All those in favor of approving this order, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? By a vote of 5-0, that order is approved. Fifth tariff in order today is in file number SR-2024-0306 in the matter of TBJ Sewer Systems request for increase in annual sewer system operating revenues. On April 18th, TBJ filed a letter requesting a $10,000 increase in its annual sewer system operating revenues in a staff-assisted rate case. TBJ provides service to approximately 82 sewer customers. Staff conducted an audit of TBJ's books and records, a review of its customer service and general business practices, a review of its existing tariff, an inspection of its facilities, and a review of the operation of those facilities. The commission held a local public hearing in Villa Ridge to which Deb testified. No public comments were filed. The current rates for the system were set in 2011. Staff, TBJ, and OPC filed a unanimous agreement that increases TBJ's revenues by $15,000, which is approximately a 39% increase. Similar to the discussion in the first case, this is also a small case where the amount awarded is 50% more than what was requested and would result in a 39% increase. Again, similar set of circumstances, rate set in 2011. So it's similar story, though the rate increase is not as impactful. With that, after reviewing the agreement, the commission finds it reasonable and the order before us approves it. With that, I recommend we approve the order, version number 1. Commissioner Coleman,
I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman,
I support the order.
Commissioner Kolkmeyer,
Thank you, Madam Chair. Here again, I'm having a little indigestion over the 39% increase, but and likewise, same problems as the first case we discussed, but I will be supporting this order.
thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Mitchell.
I'm in support of the order.
All those in favor of approving this order, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? By a vote of 5-0, that order is approved. Sixth tariff in order today is in file number EF-2022-0155 in the matter of application of Evergy, Missouri West for a financing order authorizing the financing of extraordinary storm costs through the issuance of securitized utility tariff bonds. On November 25th, Evergy West submitted revised tariff sheets for the company's first annual true-up of its securitized utility tariff charge rider. The securitization statute requires Evergy West to, at least annually, file a petition or letter applying a formula-based rate true-up mechanism adjusting the securitization charge for the commission's approval. Staff filed a recommendation stating it had reviewed Evergy West work papers for errors in the charge. Staff stated it also reviewed the amended report and order to ensure that Evergy West filing followed the commission's order. Ultimately, staff recommended that the commission approve Evergy West true-up adjustment tariff sheets. Thus, the order before us approves those tariff sheets. With that, I recommend we approve the order, version number 1. Commissioner Coleman,
I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman,
I'm in support of the order.
Commissioner Kolkmeyer,
I support the order.
Commissioner Mitchell.
I support the order.
All those in favor of approving this order, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? By a vote of 5-0, that order is approved. Seventh tariff in order today deals with 2 cases, file number EO-2023-0369, file number EO-2023-0370, Evergy, Missouri Metro and Evergy, Missouri West notice of intent to file an application for authority to establish demand-side programs investment mechanism. On April 29th, Evergy filed tariff sheets and an application seeking the commission's approval of a DSIM under MIA to establish its MIA Cycle 4. On September 27th, Evergy, OPC, and Renew filed an agreement as a resolution of Evergy's MIA 4 cycle application. Staff and MECG were not signatories to the agreement but did not oppose it. The agreement includes a Cycle 4 budget of approximately $69 million, a majority of which is dedicated to demand-side management programs with benefits, which is significantly lower than Evergy's original request with a budget of over $213 million. Evergy has also filed tariff sheets to support the agreement and additional information. After reviewing the agreement, the tariff sheets, and the additional information, the commission finds this is a reasonable resolution and appreciates the parties for working together on this. Therefore, the order before us approves the agreement and tariff sheets. And I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like we've been in MIA for a long time, so I'll be happy to put this one to bed. Commissioner Coleman.
I agree and I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman.
I'm in support of the order.
Commissioner Kolkmeyer.
I support the order.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to reiterate that I am thankful for the parties and staff coming together and finding a program that really focuses on items that have a true impact and are beneficial to the consumer. So I support the order.
Thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. All those in favor of approving this order, version number 4, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? By a vote of 5-0, that order is approved. 8th tariff in order today is in file number EO-2023-0136 in the matter of Union Electric DBA Ameren Missouri's 4th filing to implement regulatory changes in furtherance of energy efficiency as allowed by MIA. On November 14th, the Commission approved a non-unanimous step-in agreement for Ameren's MIA Cycle 4 plan. On November 27th, Ameren filed a technical resource manual and deemed savings table, program templates and incentive ranges, and proposed tariff sheets and requested expedited treatment. Staff made a filing and stated that Ameren's request includes measures which were not approved by the Commission and suggested that the Commission limit its approval to only measures that were approved as reflected in Appendix A of staff's recommendation. Staff did recommend the Commission approve the tariff sheets. Thus, the order before us approves the technical resource manual and deems savings table, approves the program templates and incentive ranges for the programs listed in Appendix A of staff's recommendation, approves the tariff sheets, and grants the request for expedited treatment. With that, I recommend we approve the orders, both of which, this is just one. I recommend we approve the order, version number 1. Commissioner Coleman.
I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman.
I support the order.
Commissioner Folkmeyer.
I support the order.
Commissioner Mitchell.
I support the order.
All those in favor of approving this order, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? By a vote of 5-0, that order is approved. 9th and final tariff in order today is in file number ER-2024-0261 in the matter of the request of Empire District Electric Company, DBA Liberty, for authority to file tariffs increasing rates for electric service provided to customers in its Missouri service area. On November 6th, Liberty filed tariff sheets designed to increase its gross annual electric revenues, and the Commission issued a notice and deadline for applications to intervene. The intervention deadline was November 27th. On November 25th, Influent timely filed an application to intervene, to which Liberty filed an objection. Applications to intervene are governed by Commission rule, which states the Commission may grant intervention if either 1, the party has an interest which is different from that of the general public and to which they may be adversely affected by a final order of the Commission, or if granting the intervention would serve the public interest. Influent stated that it is a full-service engineering, procurement, and construction company focused on solar generation and energy storage projects for the commercial and industrial markets. Influent stated it is actively developing new on-site solar projects in Liberty's service territory. Influent stated that because it is not represented by any other party, it has a direct interest in the matter that is different from that of the general public. Influent also stated that intervention would serve the public interest by adding a unique perspective to the Commission's decision-making process that would not be represented by any other party. After reviewing the filings, the Commission is persuaded by Influent's arguments that it has an interest different from that of the general public and may be adversely affected by a final order, and that Influence intervention may serve the public interest. Thus, the order before us grants Influence request to intervene. I would just say we've had some intervention cases come before us recently using the same rule. But the distinction was that those requests were not timely filed. In this particular case, the request was timely filed, and I think it does meet the requirements of the rule, and which is why this outcome is different from the one which we most previously decided in the Ameren MIA Cycle 4 case. With that, Commissioner Coleman.
I agree with your comments and I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman,
I support the order.
Commissioner Coltmeyer,
I support the order.
Commissioner Mitchell.
I support the order.
I recommend we approve the order, version number 1. All those in favor of approving version number 1, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? By a vote of 5-0, that order is approved. Scheduling. Next week, Wednesday, December 18th, we have rulemaking hearings in case SX-2025-0116, WX-2025-0117, and OX-2025-0118 at 1 p.m. in the Kirkpatrick Building, room 139, which is the Secretary of State's building. Thursday, the following day, December 19th, we have agenda at 10:15 a.m. in this room. Starting January 1st of next year, the agenda meetings will start at 11 a.m. and be held in hearing room 310. So that will be on Thursday, January 2nd, Wednesday, January 8th, and Wednesday, January 15th. Commissioners, are there any changes or modifications to the schedule? Hearing none. So I have one order of business that I skipped. And so I want to take a minute because this is my fault. We have a new team member who's joined us. So I'm going to turn it over to Jim Bush to introduce Donald Chantana.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry, cross signals to
Yeah.
get to. So, Commissioner, this is Don Fontana. He is a new senior engineer working in our engineering analysis group. Comes to us from the city of Jefferson, worked with there. And fun fact, I was talking to him this morning and he used to blow things up in a previous life as a construction demolition expert. So we're looking to see what he could blow up here at the commission. So it should be interesting. So
That is.
so anyway, so we're glad he's on board and we're looking forward to him working with us. So.
Welcome.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Happy to have you, Don.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, any other business coming before the commission? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you, Madam
Madam
Chair.
Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Um,